Welcome back, Mets fans, to another week of Raise the Apple. Gonna have a short, quick one today as the Mets are about to kick off their final homestand of the year tonight as Jacob deGrom makes his much anticipated return to Citi Field. We'll talk about all that in a little bit. Before we get going with this episode, I feel like I would be doing a disservice if I didn't address it. The horrible assassination of Charlie Kirk 2 days ago now. It was just a disgusting, horrible act, and I just hope that we as a society and we as a country can use this kind of as a example or as a wake up call. I guess I don't want to talk too much on it because you guys are here to listen about the Mets and talk about baseball, not about politics. So I just wanted to I feel like I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't address it. And I just wanted to give my thoughts and prayers to Charlie Kirk's wife, his family, his two kids, and just a disgusting, horrible act that happened like I said, 2 days ago now. So, but again, like I said, you guys are here to listen about baseball, talk about the New York Mets, not about politics. But I just felt like I needed to start this week's episode by saying that. So, thoughts and prayers, of course, are with the Kirk family and his friends. And again, I hope that this incident is a wake up call to much of not just the country but to the world. So, but let's get back to the Mets. Let's get back to Major League Baseball. And what is going on with the Mets? What is going on? I mean, this has been the Mets get swept by the Phillies in 4 games, and it has just been an absolute nightmare over the last so if you pinpoint 2024 Mets, the middle of June is when things turned around. And when you look at the 2025 Mets, the midpoint of June is where things turned upside down. And I don't know what it is. This team is so much better than what they are. And I said that in a TikTok and last night's TikTok game recap, and someone had commented, like, what does that even mean? Look at this team on paper. The top 4 of your lineup: Lindor, Soto, Pete, Nimmo. I mean, the pieces they have around. I know center field's the big question mark right now, especially since Cedric Mullins, since coming over in the trade deadline, has not been good. The rotation on paper, was it a top tier best rotation in baseball like the Mariners have? No. But it was still a solid rotation. The bullpen was again, at the start of the year, the bullpen was kind of the question mark outside of Diaz. They went in and brought in some guys. They went out and got guys like Helsley and Rogers at the trade deadline. And those guys Rogers has been good. Soto has, for the most part, been good. He's had a couple hiccups. Helsley's been awful. You had Reed Garrett get hurt. You lost Max Kranick to injury. You didn't have Brooks Raley the first half of the season because of injury. Huascar Brazoban started the year great and then fell off a cliff, but he is coming back to the team. It's been everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for the New York Mets over the last 2 months now and change. And getting swept by the Phillies in Philly, and now the division's pretty much a wrap. The Phillies' magic number is now down to 5. The Mets, now entering play today, have a 1.5 game lead over the Giants and Reds, where the Giants quickly came out of nowhere to get into this wild card race. They have that lead over them for the final wild card spot. Entering the final homestand of the year, where they have the Texas Rangers coming into town, who have been playing some of the best baseball in the entire sport over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And then you have the San Diego Padres coming into town, who have been scuffling. They've had some bad luck with the injury bug. and they've been scuffling, but they swept the Mets in San Diego earlier this summer. It's and then when if you Mets fans know this, but for general baseball fans, the Mets finished the year at Miami. If the Mets need to win and get in like they did last year on the last game of the year when the Mets are in Miami and playing the Marlins, I think Mets fans, we all know how that's going to go. To baseball fans, the Mets are going to lose that game. Just because, for whatever reason, until this 4-game set with the Phillies, for the most part of the year, the Mets have been playing up to the upper end competition and going toe-to-toe with some of the best teams. And then they have just collapsed and have been awful against the bad teams. And since that mid-June talking point that we started with, the Mets have one of the worst records in baseball. Some of the teams around them, the White Sox, the Rockies, the Pirates, the Twins, it is... I don't really know. I don't know what's wrong with this team. On paper, I said it earlier in the offseason or earlier this season when the Mets were scuffling. On paper, and I still do believe it, this is a World Series caliber team. On paper. Now, you don't play baseball on paper. I know that. What I mean by World Series caliber, if that lineup is clicking, if that rotation is all healthy and pitching to what they've shown they can do, and when that bullpen is on, I think the Mets can go toe-to-toe with anyone. However, baseball doesn't work like that. The Mets have had up and downs in the lineup. They've had hot and cold, hot and cold. They've had the rotation get beat up by injuries and grossly underperforming. They've had guys in the bullpen underperform and get hurt, and it's just been plug and play, trying to get to Diaz. And it's just not how baseball works. You're not going to have everything working. Hypothetically, Mets make another run in the playoffs this year. Between the offense, the rotation, and the bullpen, one of those three things is not going to perform. It is very difficult to have all three of those groups performing at the same time for an extended period of time. That's just how baseball is. That's why it's extremely difficult to win the World Series. That's why since the Yankees in 99 and 2000, we haven't had a back-to-back World Series champion. It is extremely difficult. Now, the Mets right now, they just need to get in. If the Mets can get in, I think that, it's October. Anything can happen. Once October baseball starts, anything can happen. But the Mets need to get in. And the Giants have been playing fantastic. The Reds are still kicking around. I know I said I didn't think they had the firepower to keep up. I still do think that. But they are going to make me eat my words over these last 15 to 20 games, however many exactly are left. And I don't know anything other than cliches to say about what is going on with the Mets right now. Everything, Murphy's Law. That's how it's pretty much been for this team. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. They got a 4-0 lead last night in the first inning off Jesus Luzardo, and then Luzardo doesn't allow another base runner until he's done in the 8th inning, which I didn't even realize it as I was watching the game. We get to the 8th inning, the 8th inning starts, and it clicked in my head that Luzardo was still in the game. How did Jesus Luzardo have allow a 4-run first inning and still pitch through the 8th? Because after that first inning, the Mets literally did nothing the rest of the game. They did literally nothing. And then the Phillies' offense slowly chipped away. Harrison Bader is now going to be the thorn in the side of every Mets fan. It is. And the Phillies just kept calling back until they took the lead and never looked back. And then Duran comes in and shuts the door. It's rough. The Mets have been as rough. I said it the other day. They are incredibly consistent at being inconsistent. When the Mets were hot this year, they were one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best team in baseball. But when they've been bad, they have been rough. They have been bad. And I don't like to talk ill. I try and think of myself as an overly positive Mets fan. I try and look at the bigger picture and try and be positive because it is such a long season and baseball is such a stupid sport where so many wild and crazy things can happen. But I'm also not going to lie that it is and say it hasn't been extremely difficult and frustrating watching this team over the last few months. It has been. And I really don't know what's going to fit. I don't think some Mets fans have called for Steve Cohen to fire Mendoza. No. I think that's stupid. I don't think that should happen. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's any validity to that. Mets fans are unhappy with David Stearns. Mets fans are unhappy with Lindor and with Soto and everyone under the sun. That's just... It's a wild roller coaster of emotions, a wild roller coaster of events and feelings being a New York Mets fan. But it's... I don't know. I try and tell myself that even through all these struggles with the Mets and how rough it's been, but knowing how good they can be and how good they're getting set up for the future, it's going to make that World Series, when that final out is made, so much better. It's going to make that final out feel so much better. And it's just a matter of, do the Mets and can the Mets get to that point? Obviously, if the Mets can hang on and sneak into the playoffs, Milwaukee's going to be a pain in the butt. The Phillies are going to be a pain in the butt. The Dodgers and Padres are going to be a pain in the butt. The Cubs are probably the only team, and even then, the Cubs are probably the only team, if the Mets went head-to-head with the Cubs right now, I think the Mets have a shot. Right now, if the Mets are playing the way they are and the playoffs started today, I think the only team they realistically could even have a shot against is the Cubs. And that's mostly because of PCA falling off the face of the earth in the second half. But you know, when the Mets play Chicago the part of the last week of the regular season, you know that Pete Crow Armstrong is going to find his groove again and give the Mets payback, just because, again, baseball's a stupid sport, and that's just how it works. I wish I had better answers, a better response. I wish the Mets just were playing better right now. And Texas is coming in this weekend, and it is Jacob deGrom's first time back at Citi Field, and he's starting tonight. So it's deGrom versus Jonah Tong tonight. It's deGrom's first start and first appearance in general back at Citi Field since he left, which I do think he should get a reception. I mean, if Matt Harvey got a standing ovation, I would think Jacob deGrom will get a standing ovation as well, as he deserves it. Jacob deGrom, probably all time. I mean, David Wright's my favorite Met of all time. I put deGrom at probably 2 or 3. I think Pete and Lindor are in the deGrom category for me in terms of, for my favorite Mets of all time. I am very excited to see Jake back. And if Jake pitches well, I will not be unhappy about that. Because given the injuries he's gone through, he deserves it. Every bit of success that deGrom has, he deserves. Because of what he's gone through physically with his health, what he dealt with putting up a freaking practically 0 ERA, but the Mets were never putting up any runs for him. I mean, Jacob deGrom should be borderline given a key to the freaking stadium for what he meant to this organization and what he's meant to this fan base. So I hope the Mets fans in attendance at Citi Field tonight, I hope they treat him good, and I hope that, you know, he gets the proper reception and recognition that he deserves. I know it'll be a little emotional for some people, probably for me too, just because that's the kind of impact that a guy like deGrom has on a team. But you already know how this game's going to go. You already know deGrom's going to pitch great. Tong's probably going to pitch great as well. But, I mean, it's Jacob deGrom bump day. And it feels good it'll feel good to see DeGrom on the mound at Citi Field. I know it's not on the Mets, but it'll just something feels good. It feels right about seeing DeGrom on the mound at Citi Field. And I hope people in attendance tonight recognize that. But it's been rough. Been rough for the Mets. And you got to believe. That's all there is to it at this point of the season. You got to believe. You can't. Baseball, we've said it twice now, third time. Baseball is so stupid where anything can happen and anything will happen. And only the Mets could have the best record in baseball and then fall off a cliff, and now they're only a game up on even making the postseason. It's just, I'm getting very close to pushing the panic button. I think this is going to come down to the last week of the regular season. I didn't think that a week ago. But now I'm starting to grasp the reality that this is probably going to come down to the final week of the regular season. And that's how it's going to be, you know? So I could ramble on forever. I could come up with every excuse in the book. I could do anything all of you have probably done. But all we can do, is watch the Mets play, and keep believing and hope that things turn around in the right direction. And all they got to do is get in. Just get in. Just get in. And then once October starts, it's a new season, and anything can happen. You could have McLean, Tong, and Sproat starting playoff games, and they could be just absolutely amazing. That's the beauty of October, is that's where legends are made. So all they have to do is just get in. And it starts tonight with Texas coming into town to kick off the final homestand of the regular season. But that's going to wrap it up for this week on Raise the Apple. Make sure you subscribe and like on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you follow on TikTok at RTA_pod. Almost at 10,000 likes and 1,000 followers. Hoping to get there by the end of the season. And thank you for tuning in again. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We will see you next week. Let's go Mets.